Boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Robert Sports Show. I'm your host, Robert. NCAA College Football Week 12. We've now had the second week of the college playoff rankings come out. As no surprise to anyone, LSU went number one. Duh. So I actually did what I think is the top 10 rankings. Now, when I did the rankings, I did the undefeated teams all together, and then I did the teams with one loss based on how good their one loss was. So number 10, I have Utah. They're 8-1. Their one loss was against the 6-4 USC team. Number 9, I have Oklahoma. 8-1. Their one loss was against the 6-3 K-State team. Are now 6-3. And that's the thing, though. Even when the loss happened, say it happened in week 1. It's still, to me, the better that team plays, the better that loss looks. The worse that team plays, the worse that loss looks. So number 8, I have Penn State, who is 8-1. Penn State's loss was to a 9-0 Minnesota team. Number 7, I have Oregon, who's 8-1. Oregon's loss was to a 7-2 Auburn team. Actually, I should have those flipped. Those should have been flipped. I should have done Penn State 7, Oregon 8. 6, I have Alabama. We all know their one loss is to undefeated 9-0 LSU. Number 5, I have Minnesota. They really haven't played anyone this year. They have a weak schedule. Number 4, I have Baylor. They are 9-0, leader of the Big 12. They played a good Big 12 schedule. Number 3, just like the rankings, I have Clemson, who is 10-0 out of the ACC. Number 2, I have Ohio State, 9-0 out of the Big 10. And then number 1, LSU, 9-0 out of the SEC. I have Georgia down at 11th. Here's why. Georgia's loss was to South Carolina. Yes, they lost by 3 in double overtime. It's still a loss. South Carolina is 4-6. It's not like they lost Alabama by 3 in double overtime. Then hell, that's almost a win. But they lost by a 4-6 South Carolina team. But hey, that's my top 10. Now that may change next week. I may redo it. I may come up with something different. I'm actually trying to work on, because these rankings is just a committee of people going, hey, I like this. Hey, I like this. Hey, I like this. So I think there needs to be another surefire boom boom. Everyone knows this is how it's done. This is why. Here we go. It has to do with strength of schedule. It has to do with your opponent's win-loss record. It has, or basically the same thing. But I'm saying is, the initial rankings need to be on the strength of schedule based on last year's. So like after the first 2 weeks, it goes to this year's record on the strength of schedule, on how good the teams are you're playing. Now, if you lose to a team in week 1, and they are, say, ranked 10th, and then they end up in week 10, they're 1-9. I think that win is less than it would be if that team is 9-1. So, I'm actually trying to work on something. We'll see how that ends up. So, for week 11, I was 29-19 on my picks. Against the spread, I was 15-33. Over under 26-22. Year to date, win loss 302-77. Against the spread, 195 to 222. Over under 214-203. This week, life happens. I'm late getting it up later than I really wanted to. I'm trying to do the top 25. The playoff ranking top 25. 21 games, so we're going to run through those. Hopefully I'll get more consistent and get it up on a certain day each week so I can do some more games, do some other things with it. But hey, here we are. So, excuse me. Number 1 ranked LSU Tigers, 9-0 versus the Ole Miss Rebels, who are 4-6. LSU favored by 3 touchdowns on the road. I got the Tigers winning. I got the Rebels covering the 21. And I'm taking under on the 65.5. Next up, we have the number 2 ranked Ohio State Buckeyes, 9-0 versus the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, 2-7. Buckeyes are favored by 52.5. 52.5. No. Rutgers covers that, and I'm taking under on the 61.5. It might be 50-0, but I don't think they're going to win it 53-0. I could be wrong, but I don't think that. Next up, we have the Wake Forest Demon Deacons 7-2 versus the third-ranked Clemson Tigers 10-0. Tigers are favored by 34.5. I got the Tigers winning. I got Wake Forest covering the 34.5 and taking over on the 59.5. Next up, the fourth-ranked Georgia Bulldogs, who are 8-1, versus the 12th-ranked Auburn Tigers, who are 7-2. Bulldogs favored by 2.5. And then winning, covering, and under on the 41. Now, if the Bulldogs with one loss, if they want any hope at all of making the playoffs, they need to win here. They lose, they're done. Two-loss team is not making it. Too many good, undefeated, one-loss teams. Next up, we have the fifth-ranked Alabama Crimson Tide 8-1 versus the Mississippi State Bulldogs 4-5. Crimson Tide favored by 20.5. I got them winning, covering, taking over on the 63.5. Same goes for Alabama. Any team right now with one loss, you have to win out. So SEC, you got LSU undefeated. You have Georgia. You have Alabama. More than likely, Georgia LSU for the SEC title game. If Georgia can beat LSU, then you have 3 SEC teams sitting there with one loss and a one-loss SEC champion. Who's in, who's out? If LSU's only losses in the SEC title game, are they out? If Alabama's only loss was to LSU, are they out? Is Georgia in because they beat LSU? Same way in the Big Ten. We have a 9-0 Minnesota team right now. We have a 9-1 Ohio State and 9-1 Penn State. They play each other. So that's going to cancel each other out there, Penn State and Ohio State. But still, say Ohio State versus Minnesota, Big Ten title game, Ohio State wins. You have Minnesota with one loss. We know the committee, if you lose the Big Ten and have one loss, you can be held out. Wisconsin a few years ago. So, but the committee's got a hard on for SEC. So we'll see. What's the possibility of 2 SEC? Let's go on a crazy bends here. What if there's 3 one-loss SEC teams? 2 lost and everybody else, except for Clemson. Could they put 3 SEC teams in the 4-team playoff? Is that a possibility? Or do you leave one of them home, put a 2-loss team in? Or a 1-loss Ohio State, yeah, more than likely they're in. 2-loss Ohio State, are they in? So yeah, there's a lot that could happen over the next month. Alright, next up we have the Oklahoma Sooners. Sooner Boomer Sooner, 10th ranked, 8-1, versus the 13th ranked Baylor Bears, 9-0. Here's another scenario. What if these two teams end up with one loss, but they play each other? The Big 12 does not have divisions. So, if Oklahoma wins this, both teams are 9-1. Then you go on to the Big 12 championship game. There cannot be a tie. There could be a tie in the game. No, actually, college football, you play till there's no. So they can't tie. So there you go. You will have a definite Big 12 winner, but they could have 1 loss, they could have 2 losses. We'll see. Anyway, I got Oklahoma. They're favored by 10. I got them winning. I got Baylor covering the 10 and over on the 67.5. Arizona Wildcats 4-5 versus the 6th ranked Oregon Ducks 8-1. Ducks are favored by 27. I got the Wildcats covering the 27, under on the 68.5. Next up, the UCLA Bruins 4-5 versus the 7th ranked Utah Utes 8-1. Utah's favored by 21. I got them winning, covering, and over on the 52. We're headed for Oregon, Utah, big Pac-12. Even with 1 loss, are one of those 2 teams good enough to get into the conversation? I don't know. I don't think they are. I think with the powerhouse of the SEC, the Big 10, I don't think a Pac-12 team is making it unless everything blows up and people have 2 losses. A 1-loss Pac-12 team, I don't think is making the playoffs. 8th ranked Minnesota Golden Gophers 9-0, finally getting some love at ranked 8th. Versus the 20th ranked Iowa Hawkeyes 6-3. Hawkeyes are favored by 3 at home. I'm giving the 3 to the Golden Gophers. Minnesota wins, covers, and under 44.5. Next up, we have the Indiana Hoosiers 7-2 versus the 9th ranked Penn State Nittany Lions 8-1. Penn State favored by 14.5. I got them winning. Indiana covering and under 54.5. The 11th ranked Florida Gators 8-2 versus the Missouri Tigers, who are 5-4. Florida favored by a touchdown. I got them winning, covering, and over on the 15.5. 14th ranked Wisconsin Badgers 7-2 versus the 4-5 Nebraska Cornhuskers. Badgers favored by 14.5, winning, covering, and taking under on the 51. Next up, the Battle of Minnesota. The Minnesota State Spartans 4-5 versus the 5th ranked Michigan Wolverines, who are 7-2. Wolverines are favored by 13.5. I've been winning, covering, and over on the 44. Next up, we have the 23rd ranked Navy Midshipmen 7-1 versus the 16th ranked Notre Dame Fighting Irish 7-2. Irish favored by 9. I have Navy covering the 9 and under on the 54. Next up, the 17th ranked Cincinnati Bearcats 8-1 versus the 4-5 South Florida Bulls. Bearcats favored by 14. I got them winning, covering, and over on the 49.5. 18th ranked Memphis Tigers 8-1 versus the 3-6 Houston Cougars. Tigers favored by 10. I got them winning, covering, and over on the 68.5. Next up, the 19th ranked Texas Longhorns 6-3 versus the 5-4 Iowa State Cyclones. Iowa State favored by 7. Excuse me. I'm giving that 7 to Texas. I got them winning, covering, and over on the 66. Next up, the New Mexico Lobos 2-7 versus the 21st ranked Boise State Broncos 8-1. Boise State is favored by 28. I have them winning, covering, and under on the 59. Next up, Kansas Jayhawks 3-6 versus the 22nd ranked Oklahoma State Cowboys 6-3. Oklahoma State's favored by 17.5. I got them winning, covering, and under on the 66. Next up, we have the West Virginia Mountaineers 3-6 versus the 24th ranked Kansas State Wildcats 6-3. Kansas State favored by 14. I got them winning, covering, and over on the 47.5. Last but not least, the 25th ranked Appalachian State Mountaineers 8-1 versus the Georgia State Panthers 6-3. Appalachian State's favored by 16. I got them winning, covering, and under on the 62.5. Alright, that is the 21 games of the top 25 ranked teams in the playoff rankings for week 12 of the NCAA. As always, I want to thank you for watching Rubber Sports Show. Make sure you check out the CFL playoff finals. Make sure you check out the week 11 NFL. Next week, obviously, hopefully more games than the NCAA. Hopefully I'll get it up earlier in the week and just kind of, consistency. I got to work on that. That's one of my downfalls. But hey, you know what? That's life. Life happens. Life happens to every one of us every day. I want to thank each and every one of you for watching my videos. As always, thanks for watching Robert Sports Show. Don't just have a great day. Have a spiffy day. Robert Sports Show, your YouTube leader in sports channel content.